Hi, I'm Lisa Gallo, and I wanted to talk with you about some tips and tricks and best practices for your home parties. So, if you've been spending the majority of your time book partying online on social media, it's no surprise that the thought maybe of standing in front of a live audience of your host and her guests is a little bit intimidating. But if you have your presentation put together and you've given some thought to that, you'll find that it's the information that we're giving and of course the books that we're sharing is really no different than when we're partying online. It's just that now we're doing it in person. The format is different. So what I want to share today are kind of some things to think about, some of my tips when I'm putting together a home party presentation, talk with you about two different particular formats that I've found useful, and then some must-do reminders to include in your home party presentation. When I start to think of my home parties, I try to remember to keep it short and sweet, like 15 to 20 minutes. I try to realize that most of the guests have probably left a busy weekend of kid activities and sports, or they've snuck away from the house in the evening on a school night, and they were hoping to come and connect with friends and have some good food and drink, of course, while talking about books. So none of them really signed up to come and hear a lecture on literacy per se, and so I try to keep it pretty short and sweet and interesting and engaging. There are a lot of different ways to make your home parties engaging. One of my favorite ideas is to bring some of our interactive and really funny picture books like Nibbles or Jonathan James and the What If Monster, and bring the plushes that go with those books and kind of have a little story time and talk about how everyone likes to be read to and that you're going to read them a story. You read the story, and as guests hear the words Nibbles or What If, they pass the plush around kind of in a hot potato type of fashion, and the person who's left with the plush at the end of the story gets a little door prize. Maybe some bookmarks or a little mini book that you brought with you, or if you want to offer something like free shipping, it's up to you. There are lots of different ways to be engaging and interactive in your parties. I've heard of things like scavenger hunts and like a book bingo, or even just having your guests pick books that are interesting to them and having your guests share why they picked up that particular book. I also like to share a little bit about what makes Usborne and Kane Miller books a little bit different and unique. Many of my customers are very familiar with like Scholastic and Barnes and Nobles and some of the big box bookstores, but they're not quite sure they've heard of Usborne or Kane Miller for that matter. So I'd like to share that what makes our books so special and so unique is that they're highly interactive. There's lots of things to touch and to feel, the flaps to lift. It appeals to all sorts of different learners, visual learners, kinesthetic learners. I like to talk about how we are a leader in nonfiction and how you see that displayed throughout the whole line of Usborne and Kane Miller books. I also really like to share how Peter Usborne talks about his books. My favorite line of his being that he wants his books to be edible. He wants children to want to eat his books. That always gets a laugh at the parties. And then the other thing I really like to share, especially when I'm explaining the difference between Usborne and Kane Miller books, I heard once, a long time ago when I first started, that Usborne feeds a child's mind in the little bits of nuggets of information and facts and figures and interesting things, and that Kane Miller feeds a child's heart and soul in the social emotional picture books and chapter books that we offer. And I talk about how that's just a really great partnership in all the books that we offer. Once you have kind of thought about the different kinds of information you want to share with your guests at your home parties, then you need to think about kind of the best way to organize that information and the format that you want to present it in. There are two formats that have worked for me, two kind of presentation types. The first is the Read Aloud handbook presentation, and the second is the 5 Ways to Save. When I first started 8 years ago, I remember it was Katie Hewitt. I heard her in convention. You can search for it in all the trainings, ask your upline about it. Her Read Aloud presentation really spoke to me as a former teacher, as an English major. The presentation she put together around Jim Trelease's Read Aloud handbook was brilliant. It talks a lot about facts and figures, about how the interest in reading kind of starts out really strong in kindergarten and starts to disappear into 8th grade, and why, and basically builds a whole presentation around building a culture of reading, kind of raising readers in your home. And then I use that as a jumping off point to start talking about the wonderful books we have to support that. So things like Ted and Friends and our collection of phonics readers, the illustrated collection, of course, our great read alouds, any of the 10-minute stories or 10-minute more stories. And then there's also wonderful like activity books that also support that, like in our Wipe Clean series. And so the Jim Trelease Read Aloud Handbook I used as kind of the framework of my presentation, and then it led me to pick the books that kind of supported that, that information. The other format that I've used a lot that's really helpful and is received well is the 5 Ways to Save party. It's really great because you just have to think of the 5 ways to save, and it keeps you right on track as to what it is you're talking about, and then it also helps you choose the books that you're presenting. So when you're talking about the 5 ways to save, the first one is you can save with our collections of books. So, you know, if you find a kid who really loves nonfiction, there's a couple collections of our beginners nonfiction books, which can save you a few dollars. Or if they really love the Hey Jack books, the collection of Hey Jack books can save some money. But there's all sorts of different kinds of collections that we have that offer a discount to our customers. So that's the first way to save. The second way to save is in our collected volumes. So our phonics collected volumes, our complete book of Farmyard Tales, any of the collections of books, even the phonics collected volumes that are all bound together really beautifully, really high quality, but offer really awesome savings in the amount of books they put in one binding, is your second way to save. The third way to save is the customer specials. When possible, I try to include those customer special books in the books that I bring to a home party, so that I can show customers which specials are on sale, and so they can look and see. And I talk about if they spend $40, then they get to take advantage of these great deals in our customer specials. So that's the third way to save. And then the last 2 ways to save, I mean, you told them there were going to be 5, and so you have to get through the last 2. So the fourth one is to host. Of course, we know that the best way to save is to host a party and earn books for free as the hostess. And a great way to show this that has been tried and true all the time that I've been in the business is Mystery Hostess, where you stack a stack of books on a guest's lap and show them how many books an average hostess will earn for hosting a home party. It's a pretty impressive stack. And I stand corrected, actually. We know that the best way to save is the 5th way, which is to become a consultant as well. And when you get to that 5th way to save, it's a great opportunity for you to talk a little bit about your own personal story. I, like many of us, started this business 8 years ago because I wanted all the books for my kids, and becoming a consultant was the best way to do it. So the 5 ways to save, so your collections, your collected volumes, your customer specials, to host and to join is another format for kind of structuring your home party. Now, no matter what format you decide to do with your home party, there are some must-haves and must-dos that you must include in your party. I always talk about customer specials. It's a great way to offer a value to our customers and to upsell and to help your host gain more in host rewards. And you must ask everybody about hosting. Of course, throughout your party, you have dropped little seeds and planted little nuggets in their minds about wanting to host their own party. But every time you go to check out somebody, you should be asking, so would you be interested in hosting your own fun book party like your friend Julie has? I can talk with you more about what that would look like, or I can show you some available dates. Especially if the person you're speaking with has a really long wish list. So if you have someone who's got a really long wish list, absolutely ask them if they would consider hosting a party and earning some of their wish lists for free. Offer the business to everybody. Oftentimes you'll see in a home party, or you've seen it just like you've seen it on your online parties, people will kind of start to ask questions like, how long have you been doing this? Or what does your work week look like? Or especially if they ask you, how much income can you make doing something like this? Those are the people that absolutely want some more information or may want to talk with you more about the business opportunity with Usborne. But in any case, as you're checking them out, just ask them, can I give you any more information on the business with Usborne? Or do you know of anybody who might want to learn more? I think we've all heard the example of, you're just offering a plate of cookies. Would you like some of my cookies? Some will say yes, and some will say no thank you. but be sure you ask everybody, just like you're asking for hosting. And the last thing that is imperative that you do at a home party, just like you've done online, is capture your customers' info. Whether you're doing it with a customer care card, like the best way to keep in touch, all the things that we've been asking on surveys anyway, but then you have it to take with you to follow up with and provide your customer service moving forward. So no matter what it is that you decide to do, you'll find lots of different ways to have a home party presentation out there. Of course, it's just most important to make sure that it resonates with you and that you feel passionate about the way that you are presenting the information, that you feel comfortable. And remember, nobody is expecting you to be perfect. In fact, the more imperfect, the better. We're trying to show people that anyone can do this and that it's fun and that you're having fun and that they can do it and join you too. So hopefully that will kind of help you as you sit down and kind of pull together the way that you want to present your information at your home parties.